Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is JP Tasker from CBC News. I'll be the moderator for today's press conference. As folks just get settled in here, I will just read some material that we have to read before every press conference. Welcome to the National Press Theatre. Before we begin, we have a few important preventative measures to share. To prevent disruptive and potentially harmful audio feedback incidents that can cause injuries, we remind all in-person participants to keep their earpieces away from all microphones at all times. When you are not using your earpiece, please place it face down on the middle of the sticker for this purpose that you will find on the table in front of you. Please consult the cards on the table for guidelines to prevent audio feedback incidents. These measures are in place so that we can protect the health and safety of all participants, including the interpreters, and conduct our business without interruption. Thank you for your cooperation on that. So this morning we have a few folks here today to talk to us about Uyghur rights and the potential deportation of Uyghur refugees in detention in Thailand, I guess it is. They'll provide some more details and they will hand it off to one another as they go along. We have a number of speakers here, so I ask you to take the floor. À vous la parole.
Thank you. My name is Sameer Zuberi, Member of Parliament from Purefone Dollard, and I'm here today with a number of colleagues and advocates to discuss 48 Uyghur refugees being held currently in Thailand. We're here today to address the potential deportation of 48 Uyghurs being held and detained currently in Thailand. They have endured appalling conditions for over a decade. Uyghur refugees face overcrowding, lack of medical care, and isolation from legal and family support. Their potential deportation to China would have grave consequences. It would lead to grave injustices and would violate international law and threaten their livelihoods. These refugees are facing undeniable harm. If sent back to China, they risk being subjected to harmful and inhumane conditions, such as forced labor, torture, sterilization, and other unspeakable crimes against humanity. These atrocities are widely documented by a number of agencies, including UN agencies and governments. They have been condemned widely by many governments, including Canada. The principle of non-refoulement, or not deporting somebody to harm, is part of international customary law. It ensures that no one is forcibly removed to a place where they face persecution and where their freedom is obscured. In this instance, we're talking more than just about freedom, but about harm to an individual, including life. Deporting these 48 Uyghur refugees would violate Thailand's international obligations. We cannot stand by and watch this happen. These refugees must be given access to UN agencies to evaluate their claims and facilitate safe resettlement to third countries. Canada should work with the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. My apologies. Canada should work with the UN High Commissioner for Refugees to ensure they are resettled in countries that provide safety, dignity, and a better future. This is a global responsibility. We must step up to help these individuals find refuge, the refuge they deserve. Canada has long prided itself on defending human rights and standing with the most vulnerable. Our history is a testament to this. This week marks 2 years since my motion, M62, was unanimously passed in the House of Commons. It said that we, Canada, would welcome 10,000 vulnerable Uyghurs from third countries. It is our duty as a human family to ensure that refugees receive protection they deserve, and that the international law is respected and not evaded. Thank you. Merci.
Okay, who's next to speak?
I'll be passing the microphone to Mehmet Tohti, who is in charge of the Uyghur Rights Advocacy Project.
Good morning. China has been pressuring Thailand to deport those 48 Uyghur men back to China since 10 years. In 2015, Thailand has deported more than 100 Uyghur refugees back to China, and we don't know their whereabouts. And so far, 5 detainees, Uyghur detainees, died in Thai custody. The charge laid against them is illegally crossing the border from China to Thailand. And for that illegal crossing, to save their lives, they are in jail, kept in jail since 2014, more than 10 years. Uyghurs are Muslim community from East Turkestan occupied by China and are now facing a systematic genocide, crime against humanity, and all other elements of atrocity crimes. And we know that millions of them detained in camps, concentration camps, where enforced sterilization, indoctrinations, denunciation of their religious and national identity are a widespread practice by the Chinese government through torture, forced labor, and sexual violence. For that reason, many of them fled China in early stages of this genocide and seeking refuge in neighboring countries like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Thailand, Laos, and others. This 48 Uyghur man has been held in Thai immigration detention center as prisoners for more than a decade. Originally, there were about 300 detainees. Now, there are 48 left. Now, Thailand is attempting a number of times to deport them. With the international pressure, that deportation temporarily halted. This time again, when the world's attention is focused on major events around the world, China is taking the advantage and putting pressure on Thailand to deport them back. Such deportation would violate many articles of Convention Against Torture and the international obligation that Thailand is part of. For that reason, right-respecting countries, including Canada, must act immediately. I echo the call from MP Sameer Zuberi, and Canada should join the UNHCR in declaring that those deportations violate international law. Diplomatic pressure must be applied to the Thai government, making it clear that such actions could lead to formal legal consequence, including proceedings before the International Court of Justice. This is the critical moment, and a strong international condemnation could shift the balance and encourage Thailand to resist Chinese illegal demands. The lives of 48 Uyghur men depend on our immediate action, and I call the Canadian government to act now.
We'll now pass the microphone to lawyer Sarah Teich. Sarah, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. The situation
It seems like
surrounding
you're muted, Sarah, if you don't mind taking that off.
I unmuted.
Okay, wonderful. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. The situation surrounding the 48 Uyghur men detained in Thailand highlights significant international legal concerns, particularly regarding the prohibition against torture and genocide. If Thailand proceeds with their deportation to China, it would violate multiple international laws and principles, exposing the country to potential legal consequences. Thailand is a state party to the Convention Against Torture, which under Article 3 prohibits the expulsion, return, or extradition of an individual to a country where there are substantial grounds for believing they would be at risk of being subjected to torture. Deporting the 48 Uyghur men to China would clearly violate this prohibition, as there is ample evidence that Uyghurs in China face systemic torture, including sexual violence and other forms of physical abuse in detention camps. These practices are well documented and have been recognized by multiple human rights organizations and international bodies as part of the ongoing genocide against the Uyghur people. Even if Thailand were not a state party to the Convention Against Torture, this principle of non-refoulement has reached the status of customary international law, which means it is binding on all states and applies to any form of removal or transfer of individuals, regardless of their legal or migration status. In this case, sending these Uyghur men back to China would not only violate Thailand's treaty obligations, but also its broader commitments under customary international law. Because Thailand is a state party to the Convention Against Torture, and the convention contains a clause that enables disputes to be settled by the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, Canada or another state party to the convention may initiate a case at the ICJ about Thailand's breaches. Beyond the risk of torture, deporting the Uyghurs could also place Thailand in violation of international laws surrounding genocide and complicity in genocide. The International Law Commission, in its Articles of State Responsibility, determined that a state can be held responsible for, quote, aiding and assisting in the commission of an internationally wrongful act, pursuant to the criteria outlined in its Article 16. The ICJ adopted these elements as the test to determine whether a state is responsible for complicity in genocide under the Genocide Convention. And this was in a case of Bosnia and Herzegovina versus Serbia and Montenegro. Notably, although Thailand is not a state party to the Genocide Convention, the ICJ in that case concluded that Article 16 reflects a customary rule, and it is widely accepted that the prohibition against genocide is likewise binding on all states as a fundamental international legal norm. By returning Uyghurs to China, Thailand would be providing the Chinese government access to the very individuals it seeks to destroy. Using the language of the international criminal tribunals, this is practical assistance in the genocidal project of the Chinese government that has a substantial effect on the commission of the crime. Countries that uphold human rights, including Canada, have a responsibility to raise these concerns with Thailand and communicate to Thai officials that deportation of the Uyghurs would constitute a breach of Thailand's international legal obligations. Indeed, their continued detention may be breaches of other international human rights obligations and may itself amount to torture or cruel and inhuman treatment prohibited by the Convention Against Torture. Canada, along with other nations committed to human rights, should press Thailand to accept any resettlement offers that would enable these Uyghurs to leave detention and regain their freedom in one of the world's democracies. Clear communication asserting that Thailand's actions are unlawful and would result in legal consequences may encourage Thailand to reconsider its current positions and failures to do so. Thank you.
And now we are going to pass the microphone to Dr. Raziya, please.
Mesdames et Messieurs, membres de la presse, parlementaires respectés et défendeurs des droits humains, merci d'être ici aujourd'hui. Je me tiens devant vous le cœur lourd, portant la douleur d'une communauté entière qui vit dans la peur, l'incertitude et une détresse inimaginable. Aujourd'hui, nous ne parlons pas seulement de politique, de relations internationales, relations diplomatiques et de manœuvres politiques. Nous parlons de vie. Nous parlons de pères, des mères, des enfants, des êtres humains dont le seul crime était être ouïghour. Depuis des années, nous avons vu le monde s'éveiller aux horreurs qui se déroulent au Turkestan oriental. Nous avons vu les rapports, les images satellites, les témoignages des survivants. Nous savons que ceux qui sont renvoyés en Chine ne rentrent pas chez eux en sécurité. Ils disparaissent dans des prisons, des camps de travail forcés dans le silence. Certains ne sont pas plus jamais revus. Pourtant, malgré toutes ces preuves, malgré le fait que le monde sait ce qui les attend, des hommes ouïghours en Thaïlande risquent aujourd'hui une déportation terrifiante. Ce n'est pas seulement un problème pour ceux qui sont actuellement détenus, c'est une blessure qui traverse toute la diaspora ouïghour, même au Canada. Nous qui avons déjà perdu nos familles, nos foyers, nos souvenirs d'enfance, perdons maintenant foi en la conscience morale du monde. Chaque déportation est un message pour les Ouïghours du monde entier. Aucun endroit n'est véritablement sûr et sécur pour nous. C'est un message qui dit, malgré les promesses de droit international et des conventions sur le droit des humains, la justice peut être ignorée lorsque cela devient gênant. Cela alimente une frustration profonde, une peur intense et un sentiment d'impatience parmi les Ouïghours à diaspora et ici au Canada. Cela ravive le traumatisme de ceux qui ont déjà vécu des souffrances immenses. De nombreux médias titreront sur 48 Uyghurs en Thaïlande. Répète, 48 Uyghurs en Thaïlande tout le temps. Nous ne sommes pas que des chiffres. Nous ne sommes pas que des gros titres. Nous sommes des êtres humains. Tout comme vous, une famille qui rêve de sécurité, des parents qui veulent un avenir pour les enfants, des individus qui ne souhaitent rien d'autre que vivre libre de toute peur. Et à tous, les personnes qui écoutent aujourd'hui, que vous soyez Ouïghours, vous soyez Canadiens ou d'autres nationalités, rappelez-vous que votre voix compte. Faites connaître cette situation. Parlez-en. Faites pression sur votre gouvernement qu'il s'agisse. Le monde a déjà abandonné les Uyghurs une fois. En conséquence, en juillet 2015, la Thaïlande a expulsé 109 demandeurs d'asile ouïghours vers la Chine. On ne sait presque rien sur ce qui leur était arrivé. Ne les laisse pas nous laisser tomber encore aujourd'hui. Many media outlets had title is about 48 Uyghurs in Thailand. We are not just numbers. We are not just headlines. We are people just like you. Family who dream of safety, parents who want a future for their children, individuals who want nothing more than to live free from fear. The world failed to protect Uyghurs before. As consequence, in 2015, Thailand deported 109 Uyghur asylum seekers to China. Very little is known about what happened to them. Don't let it fail us again today. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you, Messi, Dr. Raziya Mahmut. And just for her biography, she is a member of the Uyghur community and born in the Uyghur homeland, came to Canada here on a student visa, and is a PhD in biology and currently works as a biological scientist. And now we're going to continue on to our final speaker, Dr. Aliya Khan, professor at McMaster University. Dr. Khan is a clinical professor at McMaster University, specializing in endocrinology and other subjects. She has over 400 scientific papers published and has led global guidelines for various bone diseases. Without further ado, Dr. Khan.
Thank you so much. I am the co-chair of Canadians in Support of Refugees in Dire Need, and we believe that every life is precious. And we support the motion made 2 years ago by MP Sameer Zuberi and the statements which have been made by my colleagues today. And our main requests are, number one, for the past 10 years, we have seen the Uyghur refugees have been in prison since 2014 in Thailand. And we ask Thailand to immediately stop the deportation plans. Number two, we ask Thailand to allow the Uyghur refugees to exercise their rights to apply for UNHCR protection in Thailand. And number three, we ask Canada to assist in the settlement of the Uyghur refugees and encourage other nations to also assist in the resettlement of the Uyghur refugees. Thank you so much.
Aliya Khan, and to all who presented, we'll now open up to questions and answers.
Okay, thank you all. I don't see any. If there's somebody online who wants to ask a question, can you use the raise hand function and we'll get to you? But I don't think there is anybody.
We want to thank everybody for tuning in, and as Dr. Mahmout said, every action counts, and for everyone who speaks up, all of you who are bravely addressing issues of concern, be it around the Uyghur people or any humanitarian and human rights cause, we wish you strength, courage, and everything that's good. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you all. This concludes today's press conference.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.